Hello and welcome to this episode of the Political Adda. The Lok Sabha Ethics Committee has recommended the expulsion of Trinamool Congress MP Mahua Moitra from the House. The report was tabled in the Lok Sabha earlier today. And the report, among other things, has accused Moitra of unethical conduct and contempt of the House for sharing her user ID, Lok Sabha user ID and password with an unauthorized person, which in this case is businessman Darshan Hiranandani. Joining us today is former Lok Sabha Secretary General PDT Achary, who was the Secretary General in the 14th and 15th Lok Sabha, to discuss all these issues arising out of this entire controversy. Welcome, Mr. Achary. Sir, I would first come to you. Given all these allegations against her, which has been laid out in the report, do you think the recommendation to expel her from the House is justified? What is your take?
Well, the main charge made against her was that she was receiving money for asking questions and all that. Now, if that is a fact, or that has been proved as a fact, then naturally this should have gone before the Privileges Committee of Parliament. Now, they have mentioned about contempt of the House. Actually, breach of privilege and contempt of the House go together. And such cases are looked into only by the Privileges Committee of Parliament. And I also hold the view that it is actually the Privileges Committee which alone has this mandate or remit to recommend expulsion from the House. Because if there is a breach of privilege, a serious breach of privilege, very aggravated form of breach of privilege, and a very serious contempt of the House, these are the offences for which a member can be expelled. Because there are different grades of punishment. The severest punishment is expulsion from the House. But that depends on the severity of the offence or the seriousness of the offence. But here the problem is the unethical conduct has not been defined anywhere. The committee rules, if you look into these committee rules, these rules do not define the offence. Now, what constitutes an unethical conduct? You can, in fact, infer the nature of misconduct which may be called an unethical conduct from the past instances. In one instance, a member took a woman with him on a tour, official tour, posing her as his wife. So this was brought before the committee later, and a complaint on the basis of that complaint, the committee certainly inquired into it and found him guilty of unethical conduct, and he was suspended from the House for a certain number of days. And he was barred from taking any companion which he is entitled to with him when he goes on tour. I mean, during that remaining part of the House, remaining period of the term of the House. So this is the pattern which we see in the Ethics Committee recommendations. They did not recommend expulsion of the person. Therefore, in my view, the Ethics Committee perhaps doesn't have the mandate to recommend expulsion of a member, because that mandate is given to the Privileges Committee of Parliament. That is my view on this.
So, DK Singh, if you can recall, in 2005 cash for Kori scandal, when 11 MPs were expelled, I remember LK Advani then saying that, for this, expulsion is like parliamentary equivalent of capital punishment. Arun Jaitley in the Rajya Sabha, when one of the members was from Rajya Sabha, also from the BJP, 6 of the 11 MPs were from the BJP. When it came to the expulsion of the Rajya Sabha member, Arun Jaitley's argument was that again it should be referred to the privilege committee. It's not something that ethics committee has done. 18 years later, we are seeing a repeat of that, because even then all these arguments did not really count for the then government. What can be done now? Because obviously the BJP has also changed its stand on this issue. Now, is the court the next recourse for Mahua Moitra?
Well, the court may look into it. The court can intervene only when there is a case of unconstitutionality or gross illegality or denial of natural justice. These are the grounds on which the court can certainly review a decision of the House to expel a member. That is there. That has been made clear by the Supreme Court in Raja Rampal's case. So these are the grounds. But as regards the opinion of Arun Jaitley and others, that it should be inquired into by the Privileges Committee. Actually, you know, the tradition has been to examine such cases by the Privileges Committee or a committee, special committee with a special mandate appointed for that purpose. The 2005 cash for query case was investigated by a special committee under the chairmanship of Mr. Pawan Kumar Bansal.
Members.
So either Privileges Committee or a special committee with a special mandate appointed by the House. That is it.
In 2005, I think for the Lok Sabha members, there was an inquiry committee constituted by the Lok Sabha Speaker, and for Rajya Sabha, it was the ethics committee for one member. So, coming to this case, as it started on 15th of October, we have BJP MP Nishikant Dubey writing a letter to the Lok Sabha Speaker, basically saying that Mahua Moitra had taken money to ask questions to target Adani Group through her questions, and that was based on the documents provided to him by a lawyer Dehad Rai, who was in personal relationship with Moitra, which she has admitted, and then they fell out later, as she said, that failed personal relationship. After that, we have Hiranandani, who is based in Dubai, sending an affidavit suo moto to the committee and basically saying that yes, Mahua Moitra used to demand gifts from me, expensive gifts from me. He is not saying that he paid any cash to her. Do you think there is enough evidence of a quid pro quo in this case so far?
Well, I do not know how the committee went about this whole thing, investigation. There were allegations that the committee did not take evidence from the people who are involved in it. The person who made a complaint and also the person who is said to be involved in it, as you mentioned, that Hiranandani or someone. So they were not actually examined by the committee, and Mahua Moitra, in fact, had a right to cross-examine those people, because after all, the purpose of this committee is to establish the truth of it, truth of the allegation. So how do we establish the truth unless you examine those people on oath? So these are some of the procedural requirements when you investigate a matter, and that too which involves the punishment of a member of parliament, in this case expulsion and all that. Therefore, the committee should follow that procedure. These are all well settled kind of procedure to investigate, which is followed in the process of investigating the truth. And I do not want to say anything beyond that, how the committee went about it and what evidence was available to the committee and all that. I won't say anything more than that. But this is how the investigation should be conducted. And investigation has been conducted by parliamentary committees earlier. But what I would say is that parliamentary committee, of course, cannot function like a criminal inquiry commission or something. Parliamentary committee follows the rules of the House, rules of procedure of the House. Now, in fact, the rules of procedure do not specify any special procedure for investigating. They should have been there. That is also my view. When you investigate a matter, it's not like the functioning of an ordinary committee, which looks into things and prepares a report. When you investigate an offense or wrongdoing by a member, certainly you must follow a certain procedure through which you can establish the truth. But that such a procedure doesn't exist today, except that the members will be asked to come, or maybe the people who are involved in this, the stakeholders, they will come, they will give their evidence and go back, and the Secretariat will prepare a report, including the recommendations and so on. This is the process. But what I would say is that for investigating a matter like this, whether it is misconduct or whether it is contempt of the House or breach of privilege and things like that, then there should be a proper procedure followed. A proper procedure should be laid down and followed strictly by the committee. After all, it involves the expulsion of a member. Therefore, it has to be done with great seriousness.
Sir, another major allegation is that she shared her member ID and password for the MP's portal with somebody else. So somebody else from Dubai used it for 47 times using her member ID and password, and that was the breach of privilege. And as the government says, as committee is saying, that it was a matter of national security also, because as an MP you get access to some draft bills, some important draft bills in advance. If somebody else is sitting in Dubai and operating your using your ID for all these things, all these even national security matters could have been compromised, and that's a major allegation. Do you think the committee is right there? Because Mahua Moitra has also admitted that it was being used by somebody else.
She has pointed out that many in case of other MPs, many LAM fellows also have access to those user ID and password. But can a LAM fellow be compared to a businessman?
Well, I do not know the facts. But the point is, the sharing of login details with someone has not been characterized as an offense by the rules committee of by the rules of the Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha rules does not contain anything about these matters. And then these login details and portal and this and that and submitting questions online is a new thing. It's a new procedure for which they have not laid down any particular rule. Normally, the normal rule relating to questions is members will sign the form, and this will be signed forms will be submitted there. So that is the normal procedure. This is a new thing which has come about, online submission of questions online. That is being allowed, and that's a very practical necessity. But no rules exist which regulate the use of these details, login, password, and all that. So my point is that in the absence of any such rule, then how will you go against a person who has shared some of these details with someone else? The second thing is, if an MP engages another person, be he a businessman or be he somebody else, or even a PA, after all, it is somebody else, and the MP shares the details, certain this password and other details with the person, so that that person can frame questions and submit. But as I understand, the submission is through her only. When she has occasion to see that. Without her approval, questions cannot go to the Lok Sabha. That means whoever frames the questions, A, B, or C, that question is seen by her and approved by her. And if a member of parliament approves the questions written by another person, in fact, in many cases, MPs entrust this to another person. That person writes, because MPs normally do not have so much of time to sit down and write questions. Therefore, they engage somebody to write it. Now, there are rulings also, but the general tradition is nobody will look into the sources of information of a member. The source of information used by a member is his or her private matter. That will not be looked into. The speakers, I think Ananda Shanavayangar or some old speakers, they had said this, that you cannot look into the source of information of an MP. Similarly, if an MP engages a person to frame questions, then you cannot go into that. You can't ask her who has prepared these questions. So far as Lok Sabha is concerned, Lok Sabha will look at the questions, that the subject matter of the question. And the basic consideration is whether the questions have a public interest angle. Because everything that is brought before the House, whether it is questions or bills or resolutions or motions or whatever, they must have a public interest angle. Because an MP is a public person, and an MP is supposed to promote public interest. Therefore, whatever question is put, that must contain a public interest. That is the basic thing, basic requirement of a question, not who prepares.
So, coming to what you are saying, sir, if there is conflict of interest, if she was allegedly using her privilege as an MP to further the interest of some business group, as is being alleged, does it not constitute impropriety, technicalities aside?
Well, there are two things. One is, as I explained just now, the question, the point is whether the question has a public interest angle, whether a question reflects a public interest matter. In that case, even if it is against an industrialist or any person, it doesn't matter. It can be admitted because it contains a public interest aspect. But if a member of parliament promotes the interest of a business person, only that which doesn't have any public interest angle, is a purely private, personal interest of a businessman, then naturally that would be an unethical conduct.
So after the report was tabled today in the Lok Sabha, both the Congress and the TMC have sought at least 2 days to study the entire report. Is that allowed under the rules?
Well, the report is presented in the House, and 24 hours, should be given to the members so that they could go through it. If it is a large kind of report, then naturally the required time, I think it contains about 224, 25 pages. And naturally, members require time to study it and then come to the House and participate in the debate.
Sir, coming to your original argument, and you have been saying this articles in your TV interviews for the last 2 months, that this case should have gone to the Privilege Committee. You are saying it even now. Please help me understand this. Is it correct that Ethics Committee can take up any matter or investigate the conduct of only the MPs, while Privilege Committee can investigate the conduct of non-MPs also, people outsiders also? So, if it was to go to the Privilege Committee, probably it could have drawn Hiranandani into the picture and could have acted against Hiranandani too. Is that distinction correct?
No. Hiranandani can be examined by any committee, Privileges Committee also, to find the truth. After all, Privileges Committee establishes the truth by examining people who are connected with this matter. So where is the problem?
But Ethics Committee cannot be taking, say, recommending action against non-MPs. Is this what's there in the rules?
The committee is meant only for the members, parliament. This committee has a limited mandate to look into the misconduct by the members. I mean, it's unethical conduct by the members. And so far as unethical conduct is concerned, I have already told you that it has not been defined in the rules. So unethical conduct is what this committee says it is. That is the thing. But then there are precedents to show how this committee decides and what kind of cases come before this committee and what punishment has been suggested in the past and all that kind of thing. So in my view, certainly, this matter should have been investigated by the privileges committee, where Hiranandani or other people could have been called to give evidence.
So,
Ethics committee could not have done it, sir?
It could have done. It could have done, certainly.
And when it comes to recommending action, if at all, against non-MPs, is the ethics committee competent to recommend action against non-MPs?
No. Ethics committee deals with only the misconduct of MPs. So it can suggest punishment for the MPs only.
So, if it had gone to the privilege committee, Hiranandani himself could have been in the dock. I mean, he could have been facing the heat.
Yes, if the committee finds that he has committed a privilege of the house, breach of privilege of the house, certainly the house, they could have made a recommendation to that effect.
So coming to the way this particular committee functioned, Mahua Moitra has also questioned the kind of questions she was asked in the committee, and she was allegedly asked personal questions. So is there a line that the members of the committee, the chairman, cannot cross while questioning the deponent?
Well, these are matters which are decided by the committee. The committee can decide what line of questioning should be followed. In fact, committee can, follow its own procedure, special procedure, if that is the requirement of a particular case. But and so far as the questions which have been asked are concerned, I have nothing to say, nothing to comment on that. Questions are asked by the chairman to get at the truth. Because only through questions, that is the way. You ask questions, they give replies, and then further questions arising out of the answer. It goes like that. That is how you reach a particular conclusion. I do not know whether that thing has been done. And as regards to question whether proper questions have been asked or certain unnecessary questions have been asked, that is for the committee to decide. I have nothing to say about that.
That's about the expulsion, but what about the parts where the ethics committee has spoken about, the money being exchanged for questions or the money trail, need for money trail to be investigated? How does the speaker go about this?
I was just asking that since the committee has asked for a legal and institutional inquiry, does it mean the committee is essentially saying there should be a CBI inquiry against her?
Yes, certainly. Institutional inquiry means only that. Because if there is a money transaction, then it comes within the mischief of Prevention of Corruption Act. And that will be investigated by the CBI only.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the discussion. Thank you.